Hello and welcome to After Scientology, Straight Up and Vertical, the weekly show where Tony Ortega and I get together and go over the week's events in the world of Scientology as reported on Tony's Substack. You see the address right there on the screen. Tony, welcome back to the show.
Well, still standing, still working. We continue on, Chris.
Exactly. We soldier on, and what a week. I mean, yeah, we'll wrap with a real, oh boy, a real doozy. But let's get into this week, starting with the IAS annual event. We now have photos, celebrity sightings, and some information, not everything yet, but bring us up to speed. What do we know
Sure.
from this week?
Well, the IAS event is a big event on the Scientology calendar anyway. But after it went on hiatus for the pandemic and then came back, Alex Barnes Ross, I think, made it even more interesting by having these protests there. They're not big protests. He's only got 15 or 20 people, but for some reason, it just drives David Miscavige crazy.
Yep.
And Scientology does all this crazy stuff to try to, interfere with these protesters, which of course just makes it more interesting. And Alex, once again, did a great job this year and had some very interesting things that he passed along to us. We're very fortunate at the bunker that he sent us some really good stuff. One of the big questions we always have now at the IAS is whether Tom Cruise is showing up, because this is the one event Tom comes to. He doesn't go to Ideal Org openings. The only one he went to out of 68 of them was the Madrid opening in 2004. He doesn't go to those. He stopped going to the New Year's in LA. He hasn't been to the LRH birthday event in Florida in about 6 years. But the last 2 years he had been at the IAS event in England. And the IAS, of course, stands for the International Association of Scientologists. It's the membership organization of Scientology. And the big thrust, besides David Miscavige on Friday night gives his usual "This is all the great things we're doing" speech, practically the same thing he's talking about in Florida for the LRH birthday. But what sets this apart is Saturday night, the patrons ball. You have to be a $50,000 donor or greater just to get in. The tickets are $600 to $1,000 per person, and they're giving out trophies to the people that have donated half a million, a million, 2 million, $10 million to the IAS. So that's a big thing about the IAS. And it's the one event now that Tom's going to because Tom Cruise lives in the UK. So sure enough, he flew his helicopter in on Friday afternoon, and it was spotted. But also, Alex knows it's Tom's because Tom's helicopter is a publicly registered aircraft, and he could see the flight from London down to St. Hill. So no question, Tom Cruise came in on Friday, and then the helicopter came back on Monday. So our assumption is that basically Tom stayed at the manor Friday night and Saturday night, and
Sure.
then Sunday left just before the charity concert. And at that time, Alex did see Tom with his own eyes,
Hmm.
and he had some video for us of the helicopter lifting off. The British press treated it funny. They acted like it was an outrage that the locals in West Sussex were disturbed by Tom's air helicopter. I'm thinking, come on, it's
Yeah.
Tom Cruise. You got a helicopter over your house one for 2 minutes in the last year, right? Come on, that can't be too much of a burden for these people. Oh, I just thought that was such a silly take by the press. No, the real story is once again Tom Cruise is on the scene for his best pal, David Miscavige.
Okay.
But maybe the even bigger news was this year we had for the very first time photographic evidence that his daughter Isabella showed up. Now, I had reported in 2019 that I had some sources telling me that both Isabella and Connor were there, but we didn't have any photo confirmation of it. I think they were there in 2019 with their dad. But this time we actually have a photograph of Isabella Cruz at the IAS Patrons Ball Saturday night. It's a big deal. You know, it was the underground bunker. We were the ones that found that success story she wrote back in 2019 about doing auditor training.
Yeah.
So we know that Isabella is much more into her Scientology than her brother Connor. And Chris, you remember who told us that? Joey Vila told us that,
That's
right?
right.
That
That's right.
that Bella is much more into the Scientology technology than Connor is. So there she was at the ball. I think it's a big deal, that Tom's daughter is going to this big thing. And the other kind of news that came out of Alex's observations was he's there on the ground. He can see how many cars are going in, and it was his
Yes.
estimation that this was a much smaller crowd the previous 2 years.
Yep.
Now, I'm sure when the slideshow comes out in a few weeks, Scientology will make it look like that tent is packed to the gills. They have ways of making it look, like a big deal. But they're claiming 7,000 people in that tent. I can tell you, we have seen photographs of the tent filled, and there are people that read my website that I'll give them the photo, and they will sit and count individual heads. And we estimate that they're maybe cramming 2,000 into that tent.
Yeah.
Maybe it's probably more like 1,500, and this year it might be closer to 1,000. Which then I have said in the past, if Scientology puts out a number, automatically divide by 7. That's always been my rule. So if they're telling us that they had 7,000 people in that tent, they probably had close to only 1,000.
Yeah. And here and you can see there, we're throwing some photos up here. There's the parking lot. I mean, there's just that they say overflowing as you reported, and yet look at that parking
Well,
lot. There's nobody there.
but let's note that the drone shots of the parking lot were for Saturday's patrons ball. The patrons ball is smaller than the Friday night
Oh, that
count.
was weren't Friday.
No, that's
My
Saturday.
bad. Well, fair enough.
Saturday.
My bad.
I mean,
Fair enough.
it still looks like an anemic
It
parking lot,
does.
right?
It does. Yeah.
So yeah, I think they'll do everything they can to make it look like it was a smashing success. But I think Alex, I trust Alex's judgment that this was a smaller crowd on both Friday and Saturday night.
Yep.
Partly maybe because Miscavige waited so late to tell everybody that it was going to be October 31st, and for a lot of parents, that's a tough night to suddenly make new plans and fly to England when your kids have probably got some Halloween plans and that kind of thing. So anyway, well, I'm looking forward to the slideshow, but from what we could tell, the photos that have come out from inside, it's the usual thing. Dave's up there giving his speech, people are in their seats. They'll make it look like it's this, basically the success that they always claim it is. But I
Right.
think Alex is right. I think they're struggling a bit. But hey, Tom and Isabella showed up, and uh, that's about it. Oh, and Nancy Cartwright. I also saw a photo of Nancy Cartwright. I didn't post it, but Nancy was there. And and the other question I had for Alex was 2 years ago. The MC on Sunday night at the charity ball was Jenna Elfman, and
Mm-hmm.
they made a big deal about that.
Mm-hmm.
And then last year, the charity ball was Nancy Cartwright, who's just less of a big deal, and she's really dedicated to Scientology. You can always count on her. I was kind of mystified that this year they were not advertising. Who was their MC this year? Who was their MC? We finally figured it out. It was Jim Meskimen. who's
Oh,
like,
wow.
who's like, you can always get that guy to do something for Scientology. He's just like, oh my god, that's the best they could do. So
Right? Wow. Wow.
it's so sad they didn't even advertise it. It's like, oh yeah, we got Jim Meskimen, the impressions guy. Yeah,
I mean, nice guy, but come on. He's like, what does they say, a D list? I mean,
yeah, exactly,
nice guy,
exactly.
but come on.
Yeah,
Um, Wow, that is interesting. I will also say that I think one of the reasons why, this really does get under Miscavige's craw over in the UK is because Tom is there, because the bigwigs are there, and they're seeing the signs, the protests. Like, why does the protest bug him so much there? Well, it's right in the face of these whales, these Scientology whales. As you said, you can't even really be there on especially on Saturday night, if you're not dropping 50,000 to the
yeah,
church. These are loyal people,
right,
in good standing, as they say.
right.
So to get any N theta on their lines, right, is just going to, as they say, again, it's just going to piss Miscavige off to no end. Um, and yeah, the Cruz family, Scientology through and through. I wonder if Connor was there. It would be a little telling if he wasn't, considering, I mean, because Isabella lives over there, right?
Right. Connor lives in
And Connor's over
Clearwater.
in Clearwater.
Connor's in Clearwater. He's not as into it. If you remember what Joy told us,
Yeah.
that he was kind of a fixture at the Flag Land Base, walking around the Fort Harrison in bare feet.
Yeah.
He just
Yeah.
but he just didn't care. He was just not into it. So
Nope.
I have a feeling he would probably be less interested in flying over there and getting all dressed up.
Probably.
But you know, Bella lives there and she's into it. She's a very dedicated Scientologist, and she just proved it again.
That's right. That's right. All right. Well, moving along, and in a way related, we have the breakdown of some of the big donors, whales of Scientology. You featured, from the the IS membership magazine.
Well, an Impact magazine came out
Mhm.
recently. I think it's been out a while before one of my readers noticed it and let me know. So this may have actually been out for a little bit. What we're waiting for, of course, are the pictures with these donors and their big new trophies from this weekend's IAS gala. But in
Right.
the meantime, Impact had come out and celebrated some other people for their donations. It wasn't tied to an event. They're not dressed up at some, venue somewhere. They're actually photographed at home, but these are folks that in the last calendar year or something had reached the next level. So what they do to they kind of gamify fundraising. If you've donated $50,000, you become a patron. If you can then keep going, and then reach 100,000, then you're a patron with honors, and it keeps going up to these different statuses they call them.
Yep.
So they were recognizing all these folks for their new statuses, people that had given 50,000 to become a patron, all the way up to the Lustig family, who were at $13.5 million to the IS.
Right.
So we got $1 million donors and $500,000 donors, that kind of thing. So I like to keep track of these folks, and and it has paid off, because I've been doing this for years and years, and somebody's name will come up in the news and somebody will do a little search and boop. So, like, the most recent example was when the Wall Street Journal did this research into this guy, Joe Cicala, who has this startup in Chicago, the Dream Exchange, where he's a white OT Scientologist trying to convince black business leaders to invest in his stock exchange without telling them that he used Scientology principles at the business. Great story by the Wall Street Journal. Well, the Wall Street Journal actually linked to my Substack because I had a record of Joe Cicala being a gold meritorious $1 million donor to the IAS. So that's why I like to keep track of these folks, is that they become useful in other stories and even for other journalists. So we have a whole new set now. And we actually printed they actually have a list, a typed list, not just photos, all the way down to people that have only given $10,000. So we've got lots and lots of names of folks that are keeping Scientology afloat in 2025, Chris. They're keeping it going.
Well, yeah, I'd like to point out to the audience that there's a little gem here in Tony's Substack, an underground bunker publishing of this for years and years and years now. There's a little database of information of exactly like Tony says, the people who are keeping Scientology afloat. And while we take hours and hours of time talking about the legal cases and the lawsuits and even some of the protests that go on, and there are lots of protests that go on, what is fascinating and a little frustrating for me is that the whales, these people, these business people, make the most sense as the targets of protest, like as the people who should be being gone after, right? Is these guys. You go parade around a church of Scientology, you're yelling at these converted people who are staff. They are the most dedicated Scientologists you're going to find. You go to these whales businesses, all their employees are not Scientologists, right? They're going to be, what the hell is going on out here? Human rights violations, what? Abuses, what? That's going to create some furor. I'm just putting it out there for anybody who wants to pick it up. But the data, the raw data of who are these people, where are they, how do we find these folks? Well, a great number of them are very successful business people. They're not hard to find,
Yeah.
and the names are all in the bunker. So I just thought I want to put that bug in somebody's ear on this thing because
Well, and also keep in mind, they're being celebrated by Scientology. We're just helping the
yeah,
church get the word out. That's all.
exactly. Exactly. We're here to acknowledge your Donations to
And I never,
mankind's
if
greatness.
go back and look through, you'll see I never make a discouraging word in there. I'm not making, I'm not saying
No,
anything negative about these people. Hey, you just got a trophy for $1 million donation from Scientology. Hey, let's let everybody know, right?
ex- exactly. Let's let everybody know the good news. How about that? Oh, hey. Now, speaking of good news, and this is always good fun, you posted an article this week about OT phenomenon.
Oh
You want
yeah.
to break that down for
Right.
us?
So this has always been one of the most popular things that Scientology puts out in its publications is Advance magazine and its column OT Phenomena. When you're going through Scientology, it can be so repetitive and so drudgery. You have to do the same things over and over and over again as you're supposedly exploring your past lives and all these things and going up what's called the bridge to total freedom. Well, what's the payoff? The payoff is once you get to the upper end of the bridge in what's called the operating Phaeton levels, OT 1, 2, 3, 4, is that you're supposed to start getting OT abilities. And what are OT abilities? Well, they're supposed to be pretty amazing. You're supposed to be able to leave your body. You're supposed to be able to, have power over matter, energy, space, and time. And so they developed this column where people write in about the experiences they're having now that they're OT. And this column goes way back to at least the 70s, maybe even the 60s. Jefferson Hawkins was an editor there at Advanced Magazine at the time, and he told me it was always the most popular thing in the magazine. Those stories back then were amazing. I was walking by the cemetery and somebody came over, a Thetan walked over to me and we started talking, or a real favorite one I remember from the 80s and 90s were people that were always preventing car accidents using like the beams from their head, right?
That's
So
right.
I directed my energy beams to keep these two cars from hitting each other. So just really wild, astounding claims of, magical abilities to affect matter, to save lives, just wild, wild stuff. Well, over the years, it's gotten more and more tepid. So
Yeah,
that now literally people are sending in their experiences of how they got a parking spot right in front of the store that they were going to. And, of course, you could try to explain to them that 20 times you drove by that store, but the only thing you ever remember is the one time it was open and you got that spot. That's what's going on is your selective memory because you
yeah,
liked that result, then it was pure coincidence. You just forgot all the other times when you couldn't get that spot. So they're mistaking simple coincidences with magical abilities they're getting from Scientology. And the reason why it's really kind of troubling is you're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars to get through those OT levels and get these OT abilities. And then, oh, I got a green light today when I wasn't expecting it. I mean, they're just really tepid. Now, the last two issues, we had a little bit of hope because both of the last two had some experiences of people talking with the dead. So
hmm
that's a little more interesting. That's a little crazy. And so that got a little more interesting. But the readers always love when I put up the OT phenomena to see what are the ghost stories that Scientologists are telling each other to convince them it's worth spending $1 million to get all the way to OT8. That's what this is about.
that's right. That's exactly right. And you're nailing it as far as these things getting more and more milk toast and kind of silly even. I mean, we're talking about, finding keys exactly like you said. I mean, it's right there. Oh yeah, I just, decided, oh yeah, my parents couldn't find my keys. Oh, well, you can find them now. Oh, there they are. Wow. What OT powers. I love the guy. And this is actually something that even inside the church, you would see this guy. The first one you posted was a guy in a moped. Suddenly I realized the handlebars aren't connected, right? And I had to lean in and, finish the curve and then take a bus home. And I'm like, where's the make it go right there? What do you mean your handlebars came off? How OT could you possibly be if you're driving a moped and the handlebars come off? That's not OT,
That
right? The
doesn't
fact
sound
you
very
managed
OT,
to.
does it? To be no, yeah.
I mean, I was a little like underwhelmed. Even as a Scientologist, I'd be like, dude, what are you talking about? Sound like you need to go down and get a PTS check. So anyway, I just thought they were a little, yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. And of course, this also is a wonderful little flag and indicator of the state of things inside the church and what they think of as incredible. This is where it's at now for them.
Right.
Pretty, you know,
Right.
this isn't exactly turning water into wine now, is it? Ah, all right. Now, this last one is a doozy, and prepare to get maybe upset because this is actually pretty upsetting. This is Valerie Haney
Uh,
follow through or follow up on her religious arbitration that she's been ordered to. Tony will break it down, but this is a bit rough.
yeah. So Valerie Haney famously escaped in the trunk of a car to get out of the Sea Org at the Int base, and then became Leah Remini's assistant as they were working on the Aftermath series. And so Valerie's story was the premiere episode of the third season, I believe. It was the big, shocking surprise episode,
Right.
and she was terrific in that series. And one of the things she was talking about is all the harassment she was going through. So she did file a lawsuit in June 2019 against Church of Scientology for kidnapping, based on how she was held against her will in the Sea Org, and then the harassment she was going through after she left. Well, the Church of Scientology went into court and said, listen, when she signed an ex agreement when she left Scientology, because they did bring her back and she routed out properly and signed this form, it contained an arbitration clause. And in that arbitration clause, it says you can't sue us. If you have a problem, you have to go to Scientology arbitration instead. And the judge at the LA Superior Court said, yeah, that's binding. You have to do that. You can't sue. So she was forced into Scientology's own brand of arbitration. And what I run into from people, I've even had lawyers come up to me and say they don't understand this because in California, and you're in arbitration, even if you're ordered to arbitration, you always have the right to an attorney. And I have to explain to them, you don't know what you're talking about. This is religious arbitration. It's different. Once the court decides that Scientology's contract was legitimate and that this woman cannot sue but has to go to arbitration instead. I mean, she doesn't have to. She could drop it at that point. But if she wants to pursue it, she's got to go through arbitration. Once the court makes that decision, that's the last decision the court can make. Everything else is up to Scientology. Scientology sets all the rules. They won't let her bring in an attorney. They won't let her bring in a smartphone and record things. They will not provide her with a transcript of what's going on. And the reason is they just put her through total abuse. They bring
Yep.
in witnesses that scream at her. They waste her time going through documents that don't matter, and she can't go into court and show the judge, look, they're doing this, that, and the other thing to me. Because when she goes in and says that, the attorney for Scientology says, no, none of that's going on, and there's no transcript to prove who's telling the truth. See, so it's just outrageous. When the Garcias were the first court-ordered arbitration in Scientology history, and it occurred in 2017. It was one afternoon. It wasn't even a full day. It was one afternoon. The Garcias went in there, total kangaroo court. They were asking for hundreds of thousands of dollars. Scientology awarded them like 15 grand or something. The Garcia said no thanks. They just wanted the ruling because only after you've gone through the arbitration, then you can go back to court and file an appeal at a higher court level to ask them to review the judge's decision to force you into arbitration. But you cannot make that appeal until you finish the arbitration.
Yep.
Now, the Garcias were in a bad position because they had sued in Tampa in federal court, and that's under the appeals court for that is the 11th Circuit based in Atlanta. It's a very conservative court, and they sided with the church, right?
Of course they did.
So, yeah. So, but Valerie's in a very different situation. Valerie is suing in LA Superior Court, and so if she can get through the arbitration and get a ruling, no matter what it is, no matter how bad it is, that if they award her $1, it doesn't matter to Valerie. She just needs the ruling. So then she can go to the appeals court and have them review the trial court order to force her into arbitration. Well, this is a very different thing because she would be going to the Second Appellate Division of California Appeals Court. That's a court. That's the same appellate division that ruled in the Danny Masterson civil lawsuit that they could not use arbitration in that case. They're very well aware of what Scientology's arbitration is about.
Yep.
And Scientology, I'm sure, does not want to go back to that appellate court. So what are they doing? Instead of one afternoon, as of today, when we're recording this, according to a court document that was filed this week that I'm referring to, it will be 15 days of arbitration. And I was there for her first three and wrote about that for the Daily Beast. And then I also interviewed Valerie about her second, fourth, and fifth day in 2024. it was just utter waste of time, utter abuse. They're doing everything but actually dealing with her claims. Why? Because they just want to waste time until she gives up. They
That's
don't
right.
want to issue a ruling. They don't want to go to the second court. Now, I haven't heard anything yet today about the 15th day and whether they finished. Maybe they finished. I don't know. But I believe that Scientology is doing everything it can to wear her down and have her throw in a towel.
Yeah.
Um, Now, maybe they had a ruling today. I haven't heard yet, Chris, and it may be a little while before we hear anything. But that's been their strategy so far, I believe. And it's just
Yeah.
it's Valerie has shown so much courage walking in there every day. She can't take an attorney with her. She can't even question the witnesses. If they put up a witness to badmouth her, and she's got a question that she can, basically prove that they're wrong, she has to ask the panel to ask the witness. I mean, it's just so ludicrous. The whole thing is just such a joke, and they've put her through so much hell already, and it's a shame. And basically nobody's paying attention. I know everyone wants to bring Scientology's abuses to the public, but this is abuse going on right now.
Exactly. This is current right now. What is this organization about? Oppressing the truth, deceiving people, taking as much money from them as they can, and unpaid labor as they can get from them and from their children and from their children's children.
Yeah.
That's what Scientology actually is. This case is a perfect example of exactly how they really think about their parishioners and people in general. They hate them. And this nonsense of Valerie is actually, if I understand things right, there is no obligation that they have right now, Scientology, to stop this.
No,
They could very
this
easily, according to what I understand from what the judge has said and how religious arbitration works in this country, they have the opportunity here to extend this to 30 days,
Right.
45
So
days,
this
60
so this
days.
this week, Valerie's new attorney went into court, filed a document saying this is ridiculous, this is so unfair, and asked the court, just like the previous attorney had,
Yeah,
can you just put an end date on it? Tell Scientology they got to wrap it up by such and such a date. And once again, the judge said, I'm not in a position to do that.
that's right.
Again, once the judge agrees that this arbitration clause is legitimate and that they have to go to arbitration, Scientology takes over from that point. The judge has no say. So yeah, again, it's Friday afternoon. I haven't heard what happened there yet. Waiting to hear if there's a new development and whether it's finished or not. Hopefully Valerie finished today. But I
Well,
don't know yet. And it's insane that she's even had to go this long, right? So
it,
so
yeah, it's completely
what if she's
wackadoodle.
abused? She's being abused all over again by the people she's suing for abusing her.
That's right. And with the full blessing of the United States court, because religious arbitration is a big black hole. And when you have a group like the Church of Scientology, see, if you go to religious arbitration down at your local Jewish synagogue or even at your local mosque, and they do engage in religious arbitration to settle matters there, they have set up objective third party, usually, trained people to do that process. And they actually go out of their way to try to create a situation where religious arbitration is going to work for both parties and it's gonna and they're gonna have a good outcome. They're trying to do that,
Mm.
and under the guise and umbrella and rules of that, Scientology is taking that and going, we have found the black hole that every single one of our lawsuits can be thrown into. And we can run these people over this treadmill for as long as we want, and the court doesn't get to say a goddamn thing.
That's right.
That's what's happening right now.
Yeah. Yep.
So when you have an abusive, destructive cult, it's going to surprise abuse the systems. So it's not all religions, and I really hate that. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not everybody's bad and everything is corrupt. This
Yeah.
is Scientology completely fucking with our systems because our systems are letting them do it.
Yeah.
All it would take would be legal rulings or legislation to cut this shit off and knock it off so that Scientology can't do this. but nobody even knows about this problem right now. So that's why we're kind of, hey guys, if something's going to change about this, it's going to be y'all out there who are going to step up and actually change this, because this is a systemic problem. And believe me, other cults are using this. So this black hole that people can fall into is it's just there until somebody puts a cover on it. Okay, so hopefully Scientology will show some mercy, basically, is what we're hoping, because they're really not obligated to do so, you know?
I mean, I don't know. I'm waiting to hear what happened today, but I'm skeptical that I'm expecting to hear that Scientology wants 5 more days in 5 more months or something. I don't know. We'll see.
Exactly.
We'll see.
Who
Maybe they
knows?
got done. Maybe they got done.
We'll see. We'll see. It would be nice. It would be nice, because then we could move forward. But this issue is an important one to highlight, and it's not, and it goes beyond Scientology, because like I said, other groups are watching and using this. So okay. So that point being said, all right, now that was basically our week this week as far as Scientology reporting goes. Do you have anything for what might be coming up?
Yes, I've got another update in the sad AI mess. Scientology has found somebody to pile on with an amicus brief, so I'm going to have something about that either Saturday morning or Sunday morning, depending on what I hear from Valerie's attorney. So we'll see.
All right. All right, folks. So there is the address for Tony's Substack right there on the screen. Go to it, as I say, every week. Get subscribed, get your daily notifications, check back in with us on Saturdays for the review. See you guys next week. Bye bye.